Welcome back, patreon.com/Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your gaming news. Also, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc., etc. Because it's the holidays, I'm feeling very generous, so everybody is going to get this episode on the very same day. So if you're hearing this on one of the free feeds, you're hearing this whenever you listen to it. It released on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Slow time, obviously, because of the holidays, so there's not going to be much gaming news, so it's not going to be a very long episode. So just wanted to spread some cheer to you guys. Hopefully, you guys had a good Christmas. I'm recording this on Thursday, the 26th, the day after Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa as well to everybody. So this first story kind of bums me out. I'm not gonna lie. I was really into the retro thing, and I don't know how I forgot that they did a second mini, but whatever. Sega, this comes from IGN. Sega rules out Saturn or Dreamcast mini console. We are not a retro company. This sucks. This really sucks. I don't know why they wouldn't do this. I wasn't able to get the Tower of Power. I think it was only available in Europe. You can find one on eBay, but you're gonna pay a pretty ridiculous amount. Sega has ruled out making any more mini consoles, dashing hopes for a Saturn or Dreamcast revival. Company behind Sonic the Hedgehog has released a number of nostalgia-fueled mini consoles based on the Sega Genesis, but has so far stopped short of continuing the trend with mini versions of 1994 Saturn or 1998's Dreamcast, the latter of which was Sega's final console. The Dreamcast in the U.S. launched on 9/9/99. I remember that. That was a big day because it was like 9/9/99. And I remember the VMAs. They were like the last VMA of this century was that same day. So it may have been 98 in Japan, but it was 99 here in the US. I know that for sure. I know that for sure. Uh, Sega fans have over the last few years hoped that the company would continue its mini rage, but in an interview with The Guardian, Sega's America and Europe CEO Shuji Utsumi said it was looking to the future rather than the past for new products. Well, if you guys aren't going to make another console, what do you mean new products? Are you just talking games in general? New software? Yeah. But is there new hardware in the mix? I don't know. Quote, I'm not going for the mini direction. He said, it's not me. I want to embrace modern gamers. You do realize that a good percentage of modern gamers were part of the Sega Genesis wave. Like, that's what we came up in. So it's very strange. Quote, then we are not a retro company. We really appreciate our legacy. We value it. But at the same time, we want to deliver something new. Otherwise, we'll become history. That's not what we're aiming for. While Sega has said no to many consoles, it has big plans to revive its older intellectual property with modern takes. For example, big new games in the Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, and Virtua Fighter franchises are all in the works. Streets of Rage 4, phenomenal, by the way. I spent a lot of time playing that game this year. Spent a lot of time on my PlayStation Portal playing that game this year, in fact. These games are being developed as Sega continues with the hugely successful Sonic, Persona, and Yakuza series, with Creative Assembly working on a new Total War games and Alien Isolation 2, and Sports Interactive continue with the eternally popular Football Manager. Meanwhile, in an interview with the BBC, BBC, Utsumi suggested Sega is considering launching its own subscription service for video games, competing with the likes of EA Play, Xbox Game Pass, and PlayStation Plus, to name but a few. Quote, we're thinking something and discussing something we cannot disclose right now, he said. What that tells me is they're definitely going to do it, and they're discussing how they're going to roll it out. I would assume that they would then make it available on PC, um, probably on PlayStation in the PlayStation Store, on Xbox in the store. Nintendo, I don't know. That would be very strange. Obviously, you can play Sonic on a Nintendo console now because they got out of the hardware business, and then they decided to be, a platform, a third party platform. Um, but Microsoft wanted to put a version of Xbox Game Pass on the Nintendo Switch. I think that Sony and Nintendo, once being rivals, but then essentially being partners, why not put it on the Switch or the Switch 2 or whatever's going on there? I would assume that the Steam Deck, ROG Ally, all those things would also, be able to run the subscription service. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think Sega is actually very innovative. I remember in the '90s there was the Sega Channel. I think you had to have internet at the time, but you could like play Sega games and stuff like that via this channel. So, um, I don't dislike the idea. I dislike the fact that they're not going to do a Dreamcast or Sega Saturn Mini. I can see why you wouldn't do a Sega Saturn Mini. Like, they had to go to the Dreamcast really quickly because the Sega Saturn was just an abomination. I always loved the design of the console. I thought it was amazing. But I think from my understanding, they got wind that the PlayStation was coming and it was going to be really, really big. And Sega jumped the gun and they're like, the Saturn is available today in stores. And the retailers got mad because not a lot of them actually got a stock of the Saturn. And then the games just didn't, so I don't know. I would love to get my hands on a Sega Saturn. I wonder what they're going for on eBay. Let's just do a quick search. Do 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 do. 189, 206, 187. This one's 350, but it comes with the box, which also always raises the value. So there are some available online. You know, I would love to get some. I would love to get one. I would love to get the second iteration of the Genesis where it was a lot more compact. I thought that was really cool. And I can't believe I missed out on the mini version of that. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, why I wouldn't get it, but I'm really actually I think I did pre-order and then I canceled the pre-order because I didn't like the list of games. But then I actually just looked back at the list of games and I was like, wait a minute, I was bugging. There is some good stuff on here, so I don't know. It would be nice if they would pivot, but I don't think that they're going to. I think this is just their stance. I think everybody did the mini console. When Nintendo did it, they did it best with the NES and the SNES, and then Sony did it with the PlayStation, and it just did not do well. I think if they had put different games, you have to remember with the first PlayStation, there weren't that many first party games. A lot of stuff was third party deals that they did while they were trying to build up their own PlayStation studios. Had they, been able to get to the PlayStation 2 and then start releasing some of the heat there, that would have been awesome. But they couldn't get to the PS2 because that would have been the real money maker. I would have loved to have had a mini PlayStation 2. Like, and if they had given you like the vertical and the horizontal stand with it, that would have been fucking perfect. Getting to the PlayStation 3 would have been nice. Getting to the Nintendo 64, I still don't know how they screwed that one up. It was just these mini consoles, the fact that they're little collectibles, but they actually work. Brilliant. Brilliant. And I thought we were going to have a much bigger run of those than we actually did. So I don't know. It sucks that we're not getting any more, but it is what it is. Um, in other news, this comes from TheVerge.com. The future of Xbox looks a lot like a PC. When I reviewed the Xbox Series X nearly 4 years ago, I called the console a next-gen PC. Not only did the Xbox look like a PC with its boxy rectangular tower-like case, but it also felt like one thanks to the hardware upgrades that allowed it to run games with a variety of PC-like graphical modes. Now, as we approach the next generation of Xbox, it looks like Microsoft is about to close the gap between Xbox and PC even further. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer has teased some potentially massive Xbox platform changes in recent weeks. At the same time, leaked internal memos have revealed an increased focus inside Microsoft on Xbox game preservation and forward compatibility. When you put all the breadcrumbs together, it feels like we're about to see Microsoft combine all the good parts of Windows and Xbox for its next generation console. Spencer recently said in an interview with Polygon that the Xbox team is thinking about how to open up its ecosystem and embrace PC stores like the Epic Game Store and itch.io. It's a radical rethinking of the Xbox console model, and Spencer doesn't usually tease things like this unless it's something Microsoft is seriously considering. I'm going to pause. This would be very, very interesting. But it would lean more into them being a third party publisher, and it's kind of looking like that. So I don't know. To be able to open up the Xbox to PC stores and embrace a more open model, several things need to happen that I get the sense are in motion inside Microsoft. First and foremost, it will need to make the console capable of running PC games. That doesn't mean Xbox owners will suddenly be booting into Windows Desktop with a start menu and pop-up ads for Bing, but it could mean that a future Xbox console would lean more toward the PC side of game development. Microsoft has been trying to bridge this development gap for years with projects like GameCore, a method that makes it easier for developers to package up games that use both Xbox and PC services and run as container-based apps. Microsoft has promised the biggest technical leap ever in a generation for its next Xbox console. The company has also set up a new team dedicated to preserving existing Xbox games. Quote, we are building on our strong history of delivering backwards compatibility to our players, and we remain committed to bringing forward the amazing library of Xbox games for future generations of players to enjoy. Xbox President Sarah Bond wrote recently in the leaked internal memo. This feels like the team being set up to transition away from the idea of Xbox and PC gaming being two separate things, while also ensuring that existing games continue to run on future consoles that adopt this new way of operating. It would open up the Xbox to run a lot more games and make it easier on developers. Microsoft opening up its Xbox console to rival PC stores comes with some risk and rewards, but it shouldn't come as a surprise. 2 years ago, Microsoft said it was committed to opening up its Xbox platform to the App Store principles to put it in place. It put in place for its Windows App Store, which allows developers to use alternate systems for in-app payments. "Quote, we will build our next generation game store based on these new principles," said Microsoft President Brad Smith at the time. If Microsoft does go down this road, opening up the Xbox platform will dramatically shift the economics of Xbox console hardware. Microsoft typically sells its Xbox consoles at a loss that it recoups through the sales of games. If rival PC stores are on Xbox, then subsidizing hardware gets far more complicated and could lead to more expensive consoles. There's a lot in this article. It keeps on going. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I don't know what their strategy is, and it kind of seems like they're doing whatever they can. I'm not saying to keep the brand alive, to save the brand, or anything like that. I don't know if they're trying to make it more appealing. There have been quite a few times that the more powerful or thought to be more powerful console during a generation has not won. And it just hasn't. They can open it up all they want. I don't know what your plan is. It's like, oh, we're opening up the PC. Yeah, this is why people believe you're going to be a third party publisher. We're hearing the rumors that you're no longer gonna have exclusive games. Okay, well, here's the thing. Nintendo and Sony are not giving up on exclusives. So if you're going to port your games to those systems, being that the Switch 2 is supposed to run as powerful as a PlayStation 4, right? And then the PS6, it's like, okay, well, if I only need two of the three because Microsoft is going to put their games on other platforms, why would I buy the Xbox console? They're also opening it up, like they said, which could make it more expensive. The PlayStation 5 Pro just went for $700. What do we expect next generation consoles to cost? That's the first question. This Microsoft box sounds like it's going to be a pretty premium thing. The difference is it is a closed box. I don't think you're going to be able to go in there and change out your GPU and change out your RAM and stuff like that. So the only aspect that we're getting that feels like a PC is the fact that it'll probably run Steam or the Epic Game Store or something like that. I just don't like, I don't know how this will work. This just seems very, very strange to me. Um, Generational leap, more like what I think we've kind of capped ourselves on visuals, right? Like these games look really fucking good right now, and to be honest, they looked good in the last generation. I didn't think I'm like from the PS3 and 360 to the PS4 and the Xbox One. I'm like, it's not gonna look that much different. I remember when we first saw the Madden trailer and it was running on Xbox 360 hardware, and I was blown away. The bone cam and all that stuff. You see the faces, like the lines in Peyton Manning's face, and they're adjusting the chin strap. And I thought it couldn't get better. And that was on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. And then it continued to get better after that. I just don't know how much further we can go visually. Maybe this is the generational leap that Microsoft is talking about. I don't know. I don't want to hear the teraflop conversation anymore because the Xbox Series X has more teraflops than the PlayStation 5, the launch PlayStation 5, not the PlayStation 5 Pro. And a lot of games still perform much better on the PlayStation 5. I just don't know. This is going to be very, very interesting. The next generation is probably going to start at the hands of Nintendo, and I expect it to start sometime around March or April or something like that. But I don't know. A lot of people aren't expecting new consoles from Sony and Microsoft till 27, 28. It's going to be 25 in a week. This is all very interesting. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to count Microsoft out by any means. They've done really good in the software space. Windows is probably the most popular operating system for PC worldwide. And that's where basically all the not all the money, but a bulk of the money comes from. You know, they've been the top dog since it was Apple. I mean, IBM and Apple, and this, that, and the third. Um, so I would never count Microsoft out in the race. I just often wonder what's the thinking behind this, and you're going through this in R&D, and Satya Nadella is telling us, yeah, well, this is our new strategy. It's like, why would you build a brand new box that's going to do all of this and then still put your games on other consoles? I just don't understand it. So I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. In other news, Sony absorbs more of Bungie. Strategic partnerships team join PlayStation's franchise development division. Bungie's strategic partners team has officially transitioned to PlayStation's franchise development division, making another step in Bungie's deeper integration with Sony. It's showing no signs of slowing down. In the past year, we've seen major changes at the studio, known for games like Destiny 2 and the upcoming Marathon, with several Bungie teams transitioning to PlayStation. The entire creative studios teams just joined PlayStation earlier this year, and now another major shift has been confirmed. Bungie's strategic partnerships team is officially part of PlayStation's franchise development and portfolio strategy division. These changes come at a tough time for Bungie after the second round of layoffs earlier this year. The studio has been working to align more closely with Sony's goals for live service games. I don't know why, because it seems like that live service initiative, that push is done, in my opinion. Bungie remains committed to its projects, including Destiny 2 and the upcoming extraction shooter Marathon. Uh, this news comes from Josh Price, spotted by the Game Post, who has been leading Bungie's strategic partnerships team since 2021. In a LinkedIn post, Price announced that his team had officially moved to PlayStation's franchise development and portfolio strategy division. He shared his excitement about the new role and reflected on his time at Bungie and the opportunities ahead with Sony. Price wrote, quote, "After 3 amazing years at Bungie, my team has transitioned across to the mothership at PlayStation. There are too many people to thank that at that inspirational studio, but I'd be remiss not to call out Justin Truman, Joshua Dean, and Gary Clay for their guidance, support, and kindness. My experience at Bungie remains a career highlight, and I'm deeply appreciative for the opportunity to play a small part in its history." He continued, moving forward, we couldn't be more excited to join the franchise development and portfolio strategy division led by Tim Kaminsky and Azad Quiselbash. On a personal level, this is genuinely a dream role, helping to transform PlayStation's global portfolio of gaming IP into entertainment franchises. I can't wait to get stuck in and roll up my sleeves. Here's to the next 30 years of play, and there's so much more, so much to look forward to. This is part of a Bungie deepening its integration with Sony PlayStation, as announced by CEO Pete Parsons earlier this year. Quote, "We are working to integrate 155 of our roles, roughly 12% into SIE over the next few quarters," Parsons said. In related news, Bungie has reportedly reduced its workforce by 700 employees in a year, leaving approximately 850 team members actively working on Destiny 2 and the upcoming Marathon slated for a 2025 release. I think the minute they missed those targets for Destiny 2, the writing was on the wall for Bungie, and I think that everybody kind of knew that things like this were going to happen. It sucks that coming out of the pandemic and we're getting these new consoles. At the time, the Xbox Series consoles and the PlayStation 5 supposed to be a really glorious time for gaming, but all we got was a bunch of leaks. The Microsoft versus the FTC for the Activision Blizzard acquisition, layoffs, and all this stuff. Gaming really took a hit. Um, I don't know. I don't think Bungie is still. I guess they're still gonna operate. Um, I guess they're still gonna operate not completely independent because they are owned wholly by Sony PlayStation, but they're not a PlayStation studio technically, which is, I don't know. I tell you what, this goes for PlayStation and this also goes for Xbox. If I spend money to acquire you, I don't care what you want to do. I paid for you. So if you didn't want to be acquired, if you wanted, like, my terms have been, hey, 3 billion, and now you're part of PlayStation Studios. And Microsoft with Activision Blizzard King, hey, $70 billion, you're, or whatever it was, you're part of, Xbox Game Studios. I don't want to see this anymore. Like, Activision, yeah, whatever. Blizzard, yeah, you guys are your own developer, but you're part of Microsoft Gaming Studios. I don't want them to, like, if you go to the web page, they're like all listed separately. Like, no, no. I'm paying for the cow. I want the cow and all the milk. I want the cow and all the milk. And if they weren't willing to go there, I get it. But Microsoft wanted those studios and they absolutely needed those studios. Um but sometimes it's the wanting that can be bad. Shout out to, God rest his soul, Ray Liotta. It's the wanting that can be bad because of that wanting and wanting to acquire that studio and all the money they spent in legal fees. All the people who sat around, we're gonna hold the line, bought a 20 million Xbox controllers, every different variation of a skinned Xbox, and now they're like, why are they putting their games elsewhere? What happened to exclusives? That was the reason you were supposed to buy these studios. $80 billion is a lot of fucking money. And I told you in the last episode I wasn't gonna say my famous catchphrase, and I'm not going to, but $80 billion is a lot of fucking money. So I get it. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I knew it was going to be a short show given the fact that there wasn't much news. Just wanted to touch base with you guys and tell you Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. The next time you hear from me, it will be January of 2025. Wishing you guys all the best and many, many blessings in your life, not just in video games, but also in games. It was a very tough and trying year, and I made it through. Unfortunately, some people didn't make it with me, and I pray for their families, day in, day out. But here's to a beautiful 2025 and wishing you guys all the absolute best. As always, my name is Derrick Lamon Jackson, and that is my time. You guys have a good one. Peace out.